To the world, he was one-third of a global phenomenon, a musical trinity of brothers who defined not one, but two distinct eras of popular music, selling over 220 million records and crafting a sound that became the very soundtrack of a generation. He was the quiet BG, the one with that haunting, ethereal vibrato that could convey a world of melancholy in a single note. His public persona was that of a gentle, almost shy genius, a pillar of the brotherly harmony the Bee Gees projected to their adoring fans, but a secret, shielded from the public for decades, tells a very different story. It's a story of inner turmoil so profound, of personal demons so relentless, that it would eventually attract the attention of the FBI. The world saw Robin Gibb as the quiet BG with a gentle voice. But the FBI saw something else entirely. Unbeknownst to the public, he was battling substance use and personal demons that led to a federal inquiry for making death threats. While the Bee Gees were topping the charts with love songs, behind the curtain, a shocking story of paranoia, addiction, and rage was unfolding. This is the story of how Robin Gibb's secret life of turmoil led to a shocking FBI investigation, a story nobody saw coming. Robin Hugh Gibb was born on December 22, 1949. On the Isle of Man, a small island nestled between Great Britain and Ireland, he arrived just 35 minutes before his fraternal twin, Maurice, along with their older brother Barry, older sister Leslie, and eventual younger brother Andy. The Gibb children grew up in a household rich with music, but not much else. Their father, Hugh, was a drummer and bandleader, and their mother, Barbara, was a gifted singer. Music was in their blood, a force that seemed to bind them from their earliest days. The family's financial situation, however, was often shaky. They moved from the Isle of Man to Manchester, England, a city still scarred and struggling after World War II. It was a tough working-class environment, and the Gibb family felt the strain. It was here that a mischievous streak in young Robin began to surface. Biographers note that he and his brothers were known to engage in petty crimes, from minor burglaries to even arson, a sign of a restless energy that would define much of his life. In 1958, seeking a better life and a warmer climate, the Gibb family emigrated to Redcliffe, a suburb of Brisbane, Australia. It was here, under the Australian sun, that the seeds of their musical destiny were truly sown. To earn pocket money, the three brothers Barry, Robin, and Maurice started performing at local speedways and theaters. They honed their craft, developing the three-part harmony that would one day conquer the world. They were just kids, singing for spare change, but the raw talent was undeniable. They called themselves the Bee Gees, a name derived from the initials of brothers Gibb. After some success in Australia, the brothers made a fateful decision. In 1967, they returned to England, determined to make their mark on the international music scene. Almost immediately, they caught the attention of Robert Stigwood, an ambitious and visionary manager who had also handled the Supergroup. Cream Stigwood saw their immense potential and signed them, becoming the guiding force that would launch them into SUPERSTARDOM. Their first international hit, New York Mining Disaster, 1941, was a masterpiece of atmospheric storytelling. Its somber tones stood in stark contrast to the psychedelic pop of the era. Robin's distinctive, quavering lead vocal was front and center, a sound unlike anything else on the radio. More hits followed in quick succession: To Love Somebody, Massachusetts, and I've Gotta Get a Message to You. The Bee Gees had arrived. They were celebrated for their songwriting prowess and their unique vocal blend, becoming one of the most successful acts of the late 1960s. The world saw three brothers, united in talent and ambition. But behind the scenes, the pressures of fame were starting to mount, and the first cracks in their public image were about to appear. For Robin, the shy boy with a powerful voice, the rapid ascent to fame was the beginning of a long and turbulent journey, one that would take him to the highest heights of success and the darkest depths of personal despair. The late 1960s were a whirlwind for the Bee Gees. Under Robert Stigwood's management, they'd become a global sensation. But the intensity of their success brought new pressures. The dynamic within the band, a delicate balance of three artistic personalities, began to fray. Robin, who had sung lead on many of their earliest and most poignant hits, started to feel that his creative contributions were being overshadowed by his older brother, Barry. It was a classic case of sibling rivalry, amplified by the distorting lens of fame. This simmering conflict came to a head during the making of their ambitious 1969 double album, Odessa. A sprawling and complex project with experimental and orchestral elements, it exposed the growing divisions in the group. The breaking point came over a seemingly minor decision. The choice of the lead single, Barry's song, the sweeping ballad, 1st of May, was chosen over Robin's preferred track, the equally beautiful but more melancholic Lamplight. For Robin, this wasn't just a creative disagreement, it was proof of his fear that he was being sidelined. Feeling marginalized and, creatively, stifled, he made a shocking decision. On March 19, 1969, just as Odessa was being released, Robin Gibb officially quit the Bee Gees. The brotherhood, the very foundation of their identity, was broken. The news stunned the music world. Embarking on a solo career, Robin quickly found success. His debut single, Saved by the Bell, was a massive hit across Europe, proving he could thrive outside the family band. He released a solo album, Robin's Reign, which further showcased his unique artistic vision. Meanwhile, Barry and Morris tried to carry on as the Bee Gees, even recording an album and a TV special called Cucumber Castle. But it just wasn't the same. The magic of the three-part harmony was gone, and the absence of Robin's voice left a noticeable void. It was during this period of estrangement that Robin's personal life began to spiral. The pressures of his newfound independence, combined with the trauma of the family split, pushed him towards a dangerous coping mechanism: amphetamines. In later interviews, Robin admitted he began using pills to stay awake for days on end to write music. The drugs fueled his creativity but also warped his perception of reality. His behavior became increasingly erratic. He turned night into day, rarely sleeping or eating, existing in a state of perpetual chemically induced motion. This turbulent period also coincided with his first marriage to Molly Hollis. They had survived the Hither Green rail crash in 1967, a traumatic event that initially bonded them, but the marriage was soon strained by Robin's escalating drug use and chaotic lifestyle. He would later confess to numerous infidelities, a symptom of the emotional and psychological chaos that was consuming him. The family, however, couldn't stay apart for long. By August of 1970, after about a year and a half, the brothers reconciled. The Bee Gees were whole again. But the scars from the split remained. The underlying tensions and Robin's personal demons hadn't disappeared. They had simply been papered over. The reunion marked the end of the first chapter of their career and the beginning of a new one. They would go on to achieve even greater fame, but for Robin, the patterns established during this first fracture would continue to haunt him, setting the stage for a crisis that would push him to the very edge. The 1970s saw the Bee Gees reinvent themselves and achieve an unimaginable level of success. They pivoted from Baroque pop to a smooth, R&B-inflected sound, culminating in the cultural behemoth that was Saturday Night Fever. The soundtrack, powered by their infectious disco anthems, sold over 40 million copies and made the Bee Gees one of the biggest bands in the world. But as their public star soared, Robin Gibb's private life was disintegrating. His marriage to Molly Hollis was in its final, agonizing throes. The couple had been living separate lives for some time. The chasm between them widened by Robin's continued drug use, infidelities, and increasingly paranoid behavior. The imp had taken a severe toll, leading to drug-induced delusions. He reportedly became convinced that Molly was involved in a complex plot to steal his fortune. The breaking point came in 1980, when the marriage finally collapsed, leading to an exceptionally bitter divorce. It was during this period, from 1980 into 1981, that Robin's private turmoil became a matter for international law enforcement. Consumed by rage and paranoia, he began to lash out at his estranged wife's lawyers. From his home in Miami, Robin allegedly sent a series of menacing messages to the London-based law firm of Heyman and Walters. These weren't just angry letters. They were telegrams containing explicit threats. After his death, declassified FBI files revealed the shocking nature of these communications. The law firm reported to the FBI that they had received numerous threatening telegrams from Gibb which threatened their lives. According to the FBI files, the language was chilling. One telegram reportedly read, "What you have done is just about the limit. I warned and warned you." It escalated, with Gibb allegedly claiming he had taken out a contract on one of the lawyers. "It is now a question of time," the telegram concluded. The threat was unambiguous. The mention of a contract implied a hitman had been hired, and the FBI took it seriously. An investigation was officially opened. FBI agents in Miami and New York began to probe the allegations, discussing how to move forward without tipping off Gibb, who was at the peak of his global fame. For a moment, one of the world's most beloved pop stars was the subject of a federal investigation. The situation was incredibly delicate. However, as the investigation progressed, Robin's own lawyers stepped in, writing to the FBI to provide assurances. They argued that their client, despite his heated words, would not be foolish enough to carry out any threat, especially in view of his singing career. It was an attempt to portray the threats as the empty words of a man in emotional distress, not the plan of a would-be criminal. Ultimately, the case was closed in March of 1981. The deciding factor was the stance of the victims themselves. Molly Hollis and her lawyers declined to press charges. Perhaps they believed he would never act on his threats, or perhaps they simply wanted the ordeal to be over. Whatever the reason, their decision brought the FBI's investigation to an end. No charges were ever filed. The divorce was finalized, but it came at a tremendous personal cost for Robin. He lost the custody battle for his two children, Spencer and Melissa. Reports from the time suggest his contact with them was severely limited for years. a painful consequence of the instability he had displayed. The story of the FBI investigation remained a buried secret, a testament to how far he had strayed. From his public image, the gentle balladeer, now a figure of FBI interest. The story of Robin Gibb is one of incredible highs and devastating lows, a journey filled with secrets few have ever heard. If you're finding this look into the hidden side of fame compelling, please take a moment to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel. We're dedicated to bringing you these in-depth stories, and your support helps us continue to uncover the truth. Now, let's get back to the story of how Robin tried to piece his life back together after this shocking chapter. After the storm of his divorce and the close call with the law, Robin Gibb sought to rebuild. A crucial part of this new chapter was his relationship with Dwina Murphy, an artist, author, and follower of the spiritual movement of Wadri. They married in 1985, embarking on a partnership that was as unconventional as it was enduring. Their relationship was, by their own description, an open one. This unique partnership provided Robin with a sense of stability he had long lacked. They had a son together, Robin John, and for many years, it seemed Robin had found a measure of peace. The Bee Gees, too, found a new rhythm. While they never replicated the stratospheric success of the disco era, they continued to write and record, settling into their role as elder statesmen of pop. They had weathered the disco backlash, personal breakups, and shifting musical tastes. Yet, they endured. But the Gibb family was stalked by tragedy. The first devastating blow came on March 10, 1988. Their youngest brother, Andy Gibb, who had become a massive teen idol in his own right, died just 5 days after his 30th birthday. He died of myocarditis, an inflammation of the heart muscle, and had a well-documented history of substance abuse. His death was a horrific shock to the family. For Robin, the loss was profound, but it was the next tragedy that would fundamentally alter his world. On January 12, 2003, his fraternal twin brother, Maurice, died suddenly at the age of 53. He had been suffering from abdominal pain and collapsed at his Miami home. He passed away from cardiac arrest during emergency surgery for a twisted intestine. Losing his twin sent Robin into a tailspin of grief unlike anything he had ever experienced. The bond between twins is often profound, and for Robin, losing Maurice was like losing a part of himself. In the months that followed, he effectively disappeared. His older brother Barry later admitted he had never seen Robin in such a state. Years later, Robin would reveal the full extent of his breakdown, confirming that he had been briefly institutionalized to cope with his overwhelming grief. He spoke of experiencing bereavement hallucinations, feeling Morris's presence and hearing his voice. The death of Morris effectively ended the Bee Gees. Initially, Robin and Barry announced they would retire the name out of respect for their brother, though they would perform together again on occasion in later years. Even within his seemingly stable second marriage, turmoil eventually resurfaced. The open nature of his relationship with Dwina was tested in 2008 when it was revealed that Robin had a long-running affair with their housekeeper, which resulted in the birth of a daughter. Though he and Dwina remained together, it was another complex and painful chapter. The final years of Robin's life were also marked by a sometimes strained relationship with his sole surviving brother, Barry. While they would occasionally appear together, reports suggested old tensions remained. The weight of all the loss, the family tragedies, and the personal scandals seemed to have taken their toll. Robin Gibb, the man who had survived so much, was now facing his own final battle. The first sign that something was seriously wrong came. In the summer of 2010, while performing in Belgium, Robin began to experience intense abdominal pains. He was rushed into emergency surgery for an intestinal blockage. The diagnosis was a chilling echo of the past, eerily similar to what had happened to his twin brother. Doctors were mindful of the family history, and the surgery was a success. He later stated that he could have been dead within half an hour. He had survived, but his health crisis was far from over. During his recovery, doctors made another devastating discovery. Robin had colorectal cancer, which had already spread to his liver. It was a brutal 1-2 punch. For the next 2 years, Robin fought the disease with everything he had. He endured multiple surgeries and grueling chemotherapy. He remained publicly optimistic, pouring his energy into his work and composing a classical piece, the Titanic Requiem, with his son, Robin John. It was a testament to his resilience, a refusal to be defined by his illness. But by the spring of 2012, his health took a sharp decline. He contracted pneumonia and, in April, slipped into a coma. His family gathered by his bedside, playing his music, talking to him, and for a brief, incredible moment, he woke up. The recovery, however, was short-lived. The fight had taken too much out of him. His body, ravaged by cancer and weakened by treatments, began to shut down. On May 20, 2012, Robin Gibb passed away. At the age of 62. In the aftermath, his son, Robin John, clarified that it wasn't the cancer itself that had ultimately claimed his father's life. He said the cancer was in remission at the time of his death. The cause was listed as liver and kidney failure, a tragic complication arising from his long and arduous battle. He died surrounded by family, his long fight finally over. So, how do we remember a man like Robin Gibb? The world knew him as the voice of the Bee Gees, a sound that conveyed a unique and profound sense of yearning. He was a songwriter of immense talent, a key architect of a musical legacy that touched generations. That is the public story, the one written in gold records and enshrined in halls of fame. But behind that story lies another, more complex narrative. A man who wrestled with demons his entire life, a man whose insecurities fractured his family, whose addiction led him down a path of paranoia, and whose private turmoil culminated in a secret FBI inquiry. It's the story of a man who survived unimaginable tragedy, only to face a devastating health battle that seemed woven into his very DNA. The two Robins, the gentle artist and the troubled soul, weren't separate people. They were two sides of the same man, shaped by the immense pressures of a life lived in the spotlight. His story is a powerful, and at times tragic, reminder of the price of fame, and the hidden struggles that often lie just beneath a polished public image. In the end, we are left with the music. But perhaps the most enduring question is this: can we ever truly know the artists we admire? Or are we only ever seeing the part of them they choose to share, while the secrets, the struggles, and the truths remain hidden, waiting to be discovered in the pages of a forgotten file? Thank you for joining us for this in-depth look at the secret life of Robin Gibb. If you want more stories that uncover the hidden side of music history, be sure to check out our other videos. Don't forget to subscribe and click the bell icon, so you never miss an upload. Let us know in the comments who you'd like us to investigate next.